everyone. This is the Next Best Series podcast, and today I am joined by the showrunner, writer, executive producer, director, Peter Craig, the force behind Dope Thief. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Good to be
Uh,
here.
I want to jump into a specific aspect of Dope Thief that I found really fascinating. The book was written over a decade ago, 2009. A lot of modern elements in the story for something that takes place in the 2020s, mainly the incorporation of COVID. I'm curious as your thoughts behind that. I feel, ever since COVID happened, it's kind of this touchy, dodgy subject where people have kind of strayed away from it in storytelling. It feels like, either cringy or just something we don't want to think about. But it feels like now we're starting to get to that point of kind of incorporating it into the art we create, no?
Yeah, completely. It was a weird decision. I
Hmm.
did get pushback on it, but I really wanted to do it for a couple reasons. One being that so it's sort of later in COVID when it's like some people are wearing masks and some people
Hmm.
are over it. And the rollout of the vaccine was close. It was just kind of starting, and they were starting to open places up again. But I thought that was a perfect time to do this because A, nobody really trusted anybody anymore, and nobody seemed competent anymore. There was that one moment where it just didn't seem like anybody was good at anything. Everything
Yeah.
got like everything got a little dirtier for a while. People weren't really going back to their jobs. Some were, some weren't. Um, and the whole vibe of the show was supposed to be like nobody's doing their jobs right now. Like law enforcement isn't, our criminals aren't very good at their jobs. The drug trade broke down, the supply lines broke down on both ends, the illicit one and the real one. Everything is just kind of a mess at that point in time. And so that's really why I wanted to put everybody there. There's this one moment in episode 5 where the Mina, who's a DEA agent, she's wants to kill herself. She calls suicide hotline, and she's just so grateful that they answer the phone. That one, she says, "Thank God somebody's doing their fucking job." It's just this feeling that like everything was kind of suspended right then. And I wanted to do that, and I also wanted to do the cultural differences that like inside Philly was so different than outside Philly because Philly's already like that. It's surrounded by such a different culture and such a different environment. So like there's one little moment in episode 2 where like the cops from inside Philly are wearing their masks and the cops from outside Philly are just making fun of them. They're like, "Are you really going to wear that out here?" I just wanted to get how different everybody was from everybody else culturally right at that moment. So we don't make a big meal out of it, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of in the background all the time.
I
Yeah.
I think you mentioned that trust factor. There's a lot of distrust, and whether it's of course in the DEA and what you're seeing as the evolution of the series, or even between Ray and Manny through the evolution of their relationship and what after this bust turns everything upside down. I would love to talk about just working with Brian Tyree Henry and White Moura, who I think are just both incredibly
Yeah.
brilliant actors who have gotten their flowers, but not nearly as enough. And just,
Yeah.
evolving those characters throughout the course of the series.
Yeah, I mean, they're so brilliant. This was the most fun part of this. I mean, I can't even tell you how smart these guys are, how good they are. Luckily, Brian was a producer on this also,
Hmm.
so I got to because Brian was a producer also. It's like he'd say it gave him more access to everything, but really it gave me more access to him because I got to use like a lot of the crew from Atlanta. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I got to like Brian was a great producer. His hires are great, his thoughts are great, and we got to sort of collaborate even more on the character because he had so much insight into the desperation and isolation that Ray would feel and the codependency of that relationship. These two guys are just completely trauma bonded.
Hmm.
Both of them really understood that okay, that's real love. They loved each other. They had each other's backs in juvie. They would love each other forever, like two guys that had gone to war together. But when you have that kind of love, you have that kind of bond, you also don't let the other one escape the trauma ever. You're always sort of reinitiating it. You're always reliving it. You're always reminding them of it. They really understood that in this in this role they were playing with each other, and they really understood that kind of textbook codependency of like, I say it's like two people go to a movie that neither wants to see. Like they both don't want to be doing this side
Yeah.
hustle anymore, and they both are kind of each thinking they're doing it for the other person. So they both were so intelligent about it the whole time. It's fascinating to watch an actor like Wagner Moura, who is so smart, meticulously play a character that's really like, man, he's lovable, he's great. He's not that smart, and
No.
to watch a really intelligent man lovingly play a not very intelligent man was an amazing thing to watch too. Like he just got it, and he had so much empathy for him at the same time that you just watch Manny make one terrible mistake after another in this, and Wagner felt so much pain for him. It was really it was a great experience with both of them.
That codependency is so key to their characters because they are addicts and it plays like that love and also like an addictive manner for them, like the substance they both find themselves addicted to. But you get their connection so instantly from the pilot. I think that's also just how well written you establish everything, and also just Ridley Scott comes in to direct, who I've gushed multiple times about how I think Ridley Scott's just one of the all-time greats. I would love to learn about you guys reuniting for this project.
So I couldn't love him more. I mean, I was really like, we had dinner in London recently. I always love just like going out to dinner with him or something, because his stories are
Yeah, I mean,
unbelievable, unbelievable stories. He's such a kind of fun, uh, gracious, charming guy who I think has been able to work so long because he really loves it so much and he's having such a good time. And he's so amused by the process. And it's like, so I can't believe we'd had this thing. I don't talk about this sometimes, but it's like we had this project fall apart. It was at the same time as Gladiator. Actually, the only reason I was doing Gladiator is because we'd had this other project we were going to do about a war photographer,
mhm,
and it was originally Ridley and Scarlett Johansson, but then all of it fell apart for the various reasons, financing reasons, that things fall
yeah.
apart. It was really complicated, and Ridley, I'd say all of his anxiety is always just about not working. Like if Ridley's working, he's really, really happy.
Mhm.
When that fell apart, he just kind of was joking with me. He was like, "Do you have anything else?" Because I'm like, "I don't." Now suddenly I have time, and I just showed him the pilot of this, thinking it was just kind of a lark. I'm like, he's not going to come do a crime TV pilot. And he was like, "Great, I'm in. When are we?" I was like, "Oh, okay, cool.
All
I guess."
right.
Yeah. So anyway, he's the same way. He works with six cameras. He has a horse trailer with every monitor up, and he sits in the horse trailer. And I'd go in there and I'd sit with him, and he, between takes, he's almost like a baseball announcer, because he'll tell you a story that he'll then interrupt for the takes. He'll go, "Okay, action," and then he'll go, "We'll use that. We'll use that. Oh, we had a focus buzz on this one. We can't use that one. Tell him to move over here. Tell him to move that light 20 degrees to the left." And then he'll go back to his story about Thelma and Louise in the middle of it, and it's really cool. Or like he'll tell like a Yaphet Kotto story from Alien or something, and you're just like wrapped. So I don't know. I'd love to work with him again. If he's already back at something else. He's working with
I mean, he just doesn't stop.
yeah, he's doing a movie with Margaret Qualley right now.
Of course. What a
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
I think also, I mean, if you look at your credits, you have some amazing screenwriting credits to your name. One that stands out to me that I think plays perfectly is obviously The Town. I
Hmm.
think that is just a seminal, crime drama of like the 2000s or the 2010s. And I'm just curious, was working on that when you come years later to something like Dope Thief, do you like see the parallels? Do you see like I've operated in this genre, I know what I'm doing, I feel very comfortable in this lane?
Yeah, completely. Because I even thought I was just doing a longer, more in-depth take on this same relationship, and
Hmm.
that the Jem and Doug relationship, Jeremy Renner and Ben Affleck relationship, is really similar. It's the same kind of trauma bonded codependent thing between these guys. And I felt like that could take up a lot more space than it did in the town. Like you could always, there's always more. And so I did think I was doing another riff on that kind of brotherhood. Um, and I did think that, Philly and Boston have some similarities in some ways too. So I thought I was doing it. They both have this kind of chip on their shoulders in the same kind of way. Although every place where the town took place, even by the time we were doing the town, it had been really gentrified, had really changed by then. And I love about Philly how it really resists that. If Philly really wants to remain itself and kind of does. So I definitely felt like I was playing in the same stuff, playing in the same arena.
We did mention Ridley, but also you've worked with so many great people like Christopher McQuarrie and Matt Reeves. And I'm curious, you do step into the director's role for the finale of this series. Did you feel like that was a natural transition at this point in your career? Was it something that you've been wanting to do and you thought now is the right time for me to finally direct?
So on this, it felt so natural because the thing is this showrunner job is such a strange, ill-defined job, and you're kind
Hmm.
of there. You're kind of there all the time. You're kind of, and TV is so different than film, so you're kind of working with the directors on every single episode. On this, it's a relief because what happens is that's more of a juggling job where you're almost a director at some points, but then you got to go put out a fire, so that kind of producerial part of it takes over. By the time I got to the final episode, and I'd meant to direct six, and then I'd wanted to direct
Oh,
seven, and I kept prepping for other ones, and then because fires would come up, you'd have to do something else. So you kept moving, and you're like, okay, at least if you direct the eighth one, nobody's going to be prepping an episode after you could do it. And so it was a relief once I got to it because you can just focus on what's in front of you for a while. And I was so close to my DP by that point and I knew him so well. And we'd been talking the whole show about what we were going to do in different places. So, yes, it felt natural in that way. It felt natural too because I guess this is a dumb way to say it, but there's a lot of movies where I'm sort of been in the co-pilot's chair the whole time and have a couple times maybe had to had to land the plane. You know what I mean? It's sort of like it doesn't feel as different as you think, except for no, I was going to say with actors, but not even with actors, because there's been times where even as a screenwriter, I've been a conduit to the actors also, just because I've grown up with actors my whole life. So um, it feels sort of natural. It's just I I've been trying to get another little movie going for a long time. I hope I get it going. It's really the smaller movies are harder to get going than the
then the
really
big ones, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think what you did at the finale really landed the plane well. All your concerns aside,
Thank
this
you.
the Delphi was it's really gripping. It's really entertaining. Like just a bunch of powerhouse performances. I think what you and the team did is really good, and I'm excited to see hopefully this feature that you're talking about in the future, or any other projects you are attached to. So, Peter, thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Yeah.